Okay. How to recycling system in schools, education from a young age, than as I am presenting now. So, as Sarah always says, I am Alvaro. I am a secondary education major, and I am a relation teacher. Okay, the first step for every person is know what is a school, because too many people schools they just consider professors or sorry they just consider teachers and students, but it's important to consider that we have students, the parents or tutors, we have teachers, and we have other people that work in the school, people that make the cleaning, people that prepare the food, people then are assistant teachers and that kind of things. So you need to consider all these people because as I put here, a school is a community of teaching learning process where all the participants are always teaching and always learning. Depends on your country, this could be more or less as a pyramid because you have some countries where the teacher is in the top of the pyramid and the students are always quiet and they cannot participate too much in his own education. And in other places, the teachers are more like a partner with the students. So in this partnership, the teacher learn from the student in the same way that the student learn from the teachers. It's different type of education in every country, but they always have the same goal. The goal is to make these children happy and these children to be useful citizens in the country. So no matter which is your system in your country, you have at least 4 type of persons involved in the education process: students, parents or tutors, teachers, and workers. In workers, we consider psychology, social workers in Chile at least. Okay, how the recycling system is going to start in a school? The first step is we need a plan. What are we going to do? For this, we need to involve all the school community. As I always say, students, parents, tutors, teachers, and workers. Put the environmental issues on the school curriculum and in the vision of the school educational project. Teachers need to be trained in the first with workers, parent or tutor need to be the second ones, a student at the last. These have a purpose, so I will talk about the purpose of this next. First one is the plan. What the school need to do with like the principal of the schools, the school board need to do before to start the plan. They need to do a good plan. So they need to know what they are going to do to start a recycling plan. Calculate the cost that they need to spend for start this plan. Create agreement with recycling companies or ONGs that recycling. For example, in Chile, some ONGs that help poor children, they collect your glass or they collect your paper. So you made an agreement with them because you are recycling, you collect all the glass in the school and you pass for them because in this way you are recycling and you are helping other children with your school project. So you need to create a web between persons. So later you need to create a calendar with a plan. The calendar need to start with obviously with putting this project in the curriculum and in the vision of the school. And later you need to start to buying stuff, to preparing the teachers, and later to preparing the parents, and at the last preparing the students. And when you are preparing the students, you need to already have the modified curriculum and you need to have the beans, like this type of beans. The color ones is the best way to do. In other countries, you have not colored ones, and normally you have little childrens like preschoolers, kindergartens, so you need to have colors because you cannot say it for a little children's like, okay, just read it plastic ones. No, you say, okay, the plastic bottle is in the yellow can. It's easier. And later you need to execute the plan. Okay, you have the calendar, you already have the agreements, you already calculate the cost, you already made put in the curriculum and in the vision of the schools, and later you execute. Create the agreement is very important because if you have these separate bins in your school, but later you say, but later you put all together in just one garbage truck, and one of the children see you doing this, the children is going to say, okay, this don't have any reason, these people is crazy, they are just messing with us, we are just losing the time. It's important to know that the children are always looking for what are you doing as a teacher, what are you doing in the school. So if you don't put these separate in different ONGs or in different trucks that collect the separate residues, you are not going to have a good recycling plan. You need to do the ONGs and the recycling companies agreement. Okay, it's important to involve all the school community. Any new plan in the school needs to be known for all the school community. The most common reason for the failure of a school new ideas is a construction or participation of just the teachers. So when you have a new plan in a school and you say, okay, I am doing this with teachers and students are just following this, it's not a good idea because they don't feel that this is owned for them. The school plan needs to be owned by all the school community. Owned like it's my plan. It's not useful if the students feel that it's not this own plan. They need to feel that. They need to feel this is my plan, this is my school. So if you feel part of something, you are more motivated to helping with the achieve of the goals of that. So when you say, okay, for example, in a football team, you support your team, you don't support other teams. In this is the same. You need to create the feeling that it's our team, it's our school. Okay? You need to create the feeling, this is mine, this is mine. Okay, vision and curriculum. The vision. The school needs to declare on a school project that they are a school with a preoccupation for environmental issues. The school vision is a declaration of intentions of the school. This answers the question, what makes your school different to others? When a school writes the vision, it's like, okay, we are the school number 3. Why or what's make my school different to the number 1, to the number 2? What is different in this school in the number 3 with the number 4? They write them this. And in this place, you need to put that it's a school with environmental preoccupations. Later, you need to put the environmental preoccupation in the curriculum. It's what the school teaches to students. So when you want to teach a new subject, you need to look for a place to teach it. For example, environmental issues you could put in science class or in citizenship class, or in my case, in religion class. When you find a place to create, you create the classes that you will teach. For example, I say, okay, in secondary education, I will put this in citizenship classes. Okay, how many classes I need to teach this? One, two, three. For example, I choose three. Okay, and now I need to know in the class one what I am going to teach, in the class two what I am going to teach, and in the class three what I'm going to teach, and what I expect to all the students learn in these three classes. And the other is the continuous education. The continuous education is in this photograph. This picture have different cans, so the student know that different cans with different colors are for different things. But at the same way, we have the information here because you could have a new student or a new teacher or a new worker, so you need to know like the information. You need to have a continuous education. If you have the beans, for example, and you have a new teacher without the cardboards, the teacher is going to know what I'm going to do? No, it's not going to know. So you need to maintain the information always at the plain side because it's helping. Maybe your student could forget, for example, in this one, in the gray one here, in the school I was working, they put Tetra Pak and cans. And normally, people don't use Tetra Pak and cans in the same bin. But in this school, it's in that way. So you need the information. Later, why the teachers need to be prepared first for the school? Because teacher will pass the training to parents and tutors. Teachers will pass the training to students, and teachers need to be an example. If teacher, when you start this project, the teachers need to be the first one that use the paper bins in the classroom. If the teacher use the normal trash can, the students are going to say, okay, this teacher is telling us something, but it's not following. So it's important that the teachers are trained first. Need to be an example for the students. They pass the training for the parents and tutors in the first step in the parents and tutor reunions. So the parents and tutors could reinforce the idea of recycling in the houses. Teachers will pass the training to the students? Yes. If you have in a science class or in another class, it's the teacher that is going to teach the students. So he needs to know before the students. And always say, teachers need to be an example for the students. It's impossible that one student do something if the teacher don't do it. It's impossible. If you say all the year that, okay, use the recycling can, and the teacher don't use, you are not going to win anything there. You need to be the example for your students. Parent or tutors, they are the seconds in this line. They need to be training on parent reunions, and they need to follow the recycling plan on home. Okay, they need to reinforce the idea, and in the perfect plan, they are going to make a recycling plan in their homes. So in the parents' reunion, you could talk about home recycling and not for school recycling exclusively, because if a child recycling in home And recycling in school, you have a new recycling for all the life. So the parents are important. For this, you need parents that are involved with the education of their kids. Sadly, not in our school, you have parents that are involved. Sorry, but I'm doing a lot of stuff at the same time. Okay, student at last. Why? Because they need to see that always is ready. They need to see that always is ready for them. They are going to execute. So the agreement with the ONGs are ready, or we are going to put later, we are going to put all together when the kids go home. No, we need to have all together. All need to be ready. How to make them to feel that they are part of this? You could see that, okay, this is in Spanish. So here in the center, you see my cursor or no? Sorry. I need to, here's. Here, there, the cardboard say people in charge. And this say people in charge of library, people in charge of home task, people in charge of communications. But the important here is that we have other thing. We have people in charge of environmental issues. The year in my classroom was called Sarah, as Sarah, so that was funny. But these kind of things, when you have other people in charge of other stuff in the school that are really important, like library, like home tasking, like communications, and you put the people of environmental issues in the same place, that child feel that is important, that is going to do something important. And it's going to push the other students to recycling, because if he's in charge, she obviously want to be successful in the plan. So you need to one student in charge of the classroom, because it's going to reinforce the idea with the other students. So they are the major actors in the plan. Without them, this is impossible. What are the major actors? Because when you have a school with 1,000 students, you have just 100 adults in there. So the adults are the 10% or less. You have the adults are like the 8% of all the schools, and all the other people there is students. So it's impossible without them. If you don't make a compromise with your students, you are not going to achieve anything. So they are the major actors in the plan, in these plans. So they are changing engine of the school. They have the force to change one school. I see schools that made a lot of contamination. They don't separate the garbage. But for example, when they discovered that they could help other people, for example, as I say, you pass the glass for animal institution, for a poor child's institution. When you pass the money or the guarantees of this for helping institutions, you say to the students, you are doing something important. You are doing something important. You are helping children that don't have food. You are giving food with the recycling project of this school. So they have this idea in their mind. and they are convinced that it's important work, and they need to feel they are the most involved on this. On the same way, and I repeat the same way, the same idea. They need to know they are the most important in this. They need to know, not just you need to make them part, and you need to know that they are the most involved and are the major actors. But you need to make they know. It's not just you know. You need to pass that for the student. They need to know the same that you know that they are the most important in this. So, question people. This is all. I think is I was talking a little. Um, oh, what I do? Okay. Um, okay.
Alvaro, if you don't mind me asking, I'd like to hear from everyone else what recycling looks like at schools in their countries and slash or at the schools they attend or attended.
Sorry, I don't hear you well.
If everyone on the call could talk a little, just quickly state what recycling looks like at their schools, and if it kind of meets that criteria, are the students involved? Do the teachers understand the process, etc.?
Someone want to talk about? Jonas Wundir?
You're smiling. You gotta go now. That means.
Someone? Okay, questions about commentaries?
Come on, Yunez. You know you want to talk.
Yeah, because that's true.
Oh, could you get a little closer to your microphone?
Yeah, we can hear you well.
I don't know. Can you hear me, Alvaro? I want to ask you. No, that's a bit.
I can hear you if I turn my volume up. So, I don't know if everyone else can.
Do you hear me well, or there is something?
Can everyone else hear? Alvaro, can you hear? Thumbs up. Okay. Go ahead, Yunez.
So you hear me, so I don't have a problem.
Yep, we hear you.
Okay, then. Thanks, Alvaro. First, it was interesting. It's like always. I want just, I mean, you know, when you was presenting, it's like, I mean, recycling school. I remember when I was in my bachelor degree and my master degree, I was seeing just, I mean, this recycling process is like this recycle is only in the private schools. When I go the public school, the public faculties, I don't really see this process. It's the same like your country, or there is I mean, I don't know why this difference between these two institutions is like always the private schools, you know, they have this this first awareness about recycling and stuff, and in the public faculties we don't really see this kind of initiative.
Thank you. Is that because it's cost prohibitive, or Just, or do you know why?
Yeah, it's like I'm seeing this here, so I don't know. It's like is there everywhere, or just we need something to do about it? I mean, to make a plan to propose something to the university, to the president, or make something. I don't know if this just here or maybe or maybe anywhere.
Okay, understand. Okay, what I see here in the schools is, yes, in the past was normally conducted by private schools, but actually today it's more like in public or semi-private schools. But you need to put some social issue together with the recycling, because poor people normally have more solidarity with others. So, what is the main idea? When you put, for example, okay, we if we recycle all the year, all the money that we pick together, we earn it with the recycling, we are going to donate to orphanage. Orphanage, sorry. It's like a
Yeah,
play
orphanage.
orphanage.
We're
Okay.
children
You
without
say
parents.
we are going to donate for orphans in orphanage. These people in the school start to do the project because they want to helping others. So you need um, in the public schools one of um, one of the motivations is mix recycling with solidarity. Because in the in the private schools, normally they do just because they can or because they don't have anything more for doing. But in the public schools, you need to motivate with something more. And that something more normally is solidarity. For example, we have here in Chile, we have Teleton, that is an institution that help um, disabled children. So some schools in Santiago, they do the recycling for helping Teleton. Like, okay, we are going to helping people, little children with other capacities. So that motivates your students. Um, the most important stuff is motivate your students, make them they are part of something more bigger.
Yeah, thank you so much, Alvaro.
How about Shreya or
Okay.
Jasmita? Do you have? Oh, Jasmita just asked a question.
Yeah, here in Chile, in major cities, it's easier to do recycling because you have more ONGs. So, what do you do with the recycling materials? We put together and we donate for some institutions that they, for example, we have WWF here. Then is a big environmental and real animal protection ONG that I think is an international one. For example, in Santiago, you made an agreement with them. You say, okay, every weekend I have um, a ton of glass, and they are going to take this glass from your school. So you put the glass together, and they take care. So you could do that. What you do with the materials, you need to uh, seeking for selling these materials or seeking for a ONG that take the material for earning money for that they own campaigns. But the most important is you need to do something with the materials. Selling or ONGs, but you cannot just put in the school and have a really big container and in the end of the year doing nothing. You need to do something with the materials, ONGs or companies.
Yeah. Alvaro, sorry, I forgot to ask you, what are you teaching?
I am a religion teacher in secondary schools, but I have a education major.
It's a public institution, right?
This is semi-private. It's kind of public. We have three types of schools in Chile: um, private, semi-private, and public. And in the semi-private, you have ones that are more like private, and the other ones are like more public. I was in one that is more like public, but in the semi-private system because some people give money for the school, like they don't need to pay in the semi-private because the part of semi-private is paying for good people that want to help.
So you are teaching, I mean, religious courses, and you are interested in recycling and environment and stuff.
Okay, so I don't hear you well. Can you just do another question? Then is whether you're feeling dealing with parents. Okay, parents. Parents are the most difficult part of this because in semi-private and in public schools, sometimes you have parents are really have absence of their child lives. They are like they don't exist in the schools. You need to work with the parents that go into parents' reunions. Sometimes you have a little amount of them, but it's a sad question because you normally don't have too many support of them, and that is why you need to know that the most important persons in this are the students. Okay, normally in the schools you have um, paper, printed paper, that is white paper that is of good quality, and normally you could sell it. Is you are not going to be rich, but you could sell and at least you put in the system again, and it's not going to garbage. And another way depends of the in your school because you could have a really big school or a little one. If you have a really big school, you have a big amount of paper, so you could earn some money at the one point. Not going to be rich, but you have some money.
Sorry.
Okay, some other question?
hear from Jasmita or Shreya and also Abdullah about what recycling looks like in their schools. And I can talk a little bit about what recycling looks like in U.S. schools as well.
Okay, I need to go. Sorry.
Is everything all right?
Yes, everything all right, but it's the time.
Oh,
Sorry,
okay. Yeah, okay.
sorry, I was a little bit occupied today because I am in another city. Sorry. Um, I think you need to remember the principal stuff. You need to involve all the school community. You need to be clear that the most important there are the students, and they need to know they are um, the owners of the project. This is this project, their project. That is the most important. Okay, sorry, thank you for hearing me again. Bye.
Bye, Alvaro. Thank you.
And
If
I will
anyone else
send you
wants to
the.
stay around, you're welcome to chat for another couple minutes. And I'll lead the
Okay.
discussion. Thanks, Alvaro. Alvaro stepped in with like a day and a half to prepare his presentation.
Yeah, no, and I need to go for the environmental subsecretary in Rancagua to pass some papers. So I am in the side of environmental issues office here.
All right. Bye, Alvaro. Thank you.
Bye, thank you.
All right. So just a little bit about what recycling looks like in the U.S. All schools I think have paper recycling. Most schools have plastic recycling. Oh no! Jasmine, if you want to, if you'd like to write in the chat what it looks like, or Shreya can speak about it, that'd be great. Just for another maybe 10 minutes, we'll talk, if that. Thank you, Jasmita. So most schools in the U.S. have plastic recycling for like plastic bottles and things like that. And then more recently, they've started with small NGOs have started doing projects in schools to recycle food scraps and or like for composting, as well as get a lot more recycling out of the lunchrooms. So the schools in the U.S. are all day and the students stay at school for lunch. And it's probably about a 50-50 split of students that bring their lunch and who buy their lunch. I mean, it changes depending on in a poor community, maybe more people buy lunch because there are subsidies available for the students. And, it really depends on the parents and, if the quality of the lunch food and things like that. Some require you to buy lunch, or, it's included with tuition, things like that. And so there's a project that was started in my community, in the school district where I attended, by a friend of mine called Mindful Waste. And they go into schools and they collect the Tetra packs, they collect empty juice boxes, yogurt cups, and all these different types of plastic that are really obscure, specific to food storage, and not typically accepted by recycling companies. And so they separate these out. So, they've got a whole big stack of yogurt cups, of empty yogurt cups, or even yogurt tubes, because I don't know if they have this in other countries, but we sell these things called Go-Gurts. Let me see if I can pull up a picture of them. So this is Go-Gurt. So it's yogurt in a tube. And so you just cut off the top here and the yogurt, and like squish the yogurt up the top. You go, it's kind of gross and weird, but Yeah, that's how, that's one of the different things that you can't typically recycle that this program has organized for recycling. And then when they sell these, the recyclable materials, they either go back to the school for new programs on environmental education or back to the nonprofits so that to support their programming. Recently, different waste management agencies have gotten involved with this initiative as well, and so they're kind of creating a model so that the Mindful Waste organization was started by a parent from that district, and so they don't have a whole lot of incentive to go out to other districts and do the same. She's trying to bring it to the schools where her 3 daughters go. So one's in elementary school, one's in middle school, one's in high school. So she's brought it to those 3 schools and is trying to expand it within the area because there are probably, I don't know, there's probably 15 schools in the whole district, and she started with those 3. But she has no incentive to bring it to other districts because, you know, this is where her family is. This is where she's always lived her whole life. And so she's worked with different waste agencies that are able to go in to the schools across the region and, you know, build that model, share that model for how to implement recycling programs. And then, of course, coming from the waste management agency, it's a lot easier because they're the ones doing the actual recycling or composting as well. So yeah, the compost initiative is very recent. In the past 2-3 years, I think, is when I've first heard of schools that have composting available in the U.S. Anything from Abdullah or from Shreya that they want to add while Jasmeeta's writing? Going once? Going twice? Anything? All right, then we'll just wait for Jasmeeta to finish typing. In the meantime, I wanted to show you a couple things on our website that we can take a look at. Let me go All right, so Care About Climate recently redid their website, and so it's got a lot more resources than our last website did for the Online Youth Exchange. So now Online Youth Exchange is located, I don't know, can you click on this? That might work. Okay, so if you go to the Get Involved and then click on Online Youth Exchange, that's where you'll find the information about our program. And you can click here to check out our meeting resources. It's our meeting recordings from all of our calls. This is more about the program. If you know you have friends who want to join, you can refer them here so that they can learn about the program, or just have them send me an email. And then all of our recordings, or if you go to Get Involved, under Resources is where you'll find them. So this calendar shows our meetings. I've also added a couple webinars that I've signed up for that, you know, just come to my email. I don't have time to send out an email to all of you to register for, but if anyone is interested, you can go to this this calendar and you know, learn about, you know, fundraising for your organization and things like that. Here's from Jasmeeta. So most of the schools in Nepal do not have segregated bins at all. I've grown in the environment where such knowledge is not given at all. But now the context is slightly different because of involvement of various organizations. Actually, Nepal has a huge problem of waste after air pollution due to no segregation system at the source. Even on landfill sites, 70% of the waste are degradable waste and 10% are recyclable. You can now think that we have very little waste generation if the knowledge is given since school level. Waste at landfill sites can be reduced. Thanks, Jasmita. Yeah, so as Alvaro said, implementing these the recycling services from a young age is so important in giving those children ownership of the recycling programs. Because, I mean, with any project where you're trying to change behaviors, as we learned from Bobakar last month when he was talking about changing social behaviors, which is a really good webinar if you weren't able to attend, definitely check that recording out. I just sent it out in the email 2 days ago. So check your inbox or spam folders if it's still going to spam. I hope not. But yeah, giving the children or the community members, the people you want to change, the power to be really the leaders of their own group. Because if we just come in as outsiders and try and tell them, you need to be doing this better, they're not as likely to change as if they're given the responsibility to track their progress themselves. So we're working with school-age children. This is something that advertisers have used negatively, I guess, but we can use positively. So I read this book about it was called Fast Food Nation, and it talked about McDonald's advertising strategy. And they decided to start the Happy Meals and give out toys to in Happy Meals, because if you get a child to come in, then they can't come in alone. They have to bring a parent. So you automatically get 2 customers instead of 1. Or if you're lucky, 3 customers because both parents come in, or the whole family comes in, all because this one child wanted McDonald's. Whereas if you get an adult to come in, they could go, they have the means to go in on their own. They're an adult, right? And so by using that marketing towards children, they have a really great way to involve the whole family in that and get them on board with whatever you're trying to accomplish. And so by teaching these in schools to children, those children are going to go home and say, hey, that stuff's recyclable. Where are we putting it? And they might be able to influence their families to start recycling at home. So it's a really great method of, reaching the children so that they can reach the whole family. So they could start with the youngest generation. It kind of moves up. So thank you. Now the school level course has been changed here in Nepal. A new criteria of environmental science has been added that provides students with knowledge of recycling from a young age. Oh, that's awesome. Thanks, Shreya, for adding that. It seems that schools are really understanding around the world that recycling environmental stewardship is an important lesson to be sharing with children. And the fact that it's being implemented as a mandate part of the curriculum is so exciting, because that means it's no longer the teacher's burden to come up with the lesson plans and figure out how to train for it. It's no longer a burden on the environmental groups that are working in those countries, the NGOs and things like that. It's part of the curriculum. There's a space for it that's made available so that the children have to learn about it, which is so important. Great. Did anyone have anything else to add? If not, I'm just going to show us this. So our next call is going to be on the 20th. In our school, we are hoping to provide the old books to children in rural areas as new sessions are to begin. It's a good thing we're starting to see. Oh, that's also great. Yeah, sharing textbooks and, instead of throwing out the textbooks that have so much good content, even if they're a little outdated, if you can send those to children who can't afford the new textbooks, that's wonderful. What a great initiative. Our next webinar is going to be April 20th. 9 a.m. is my time zones, U.S. Central Time, or GMT -5. And so it's going to be 14 o'clock GMT, or 2 p.m. GMT. And then the same, which is the same time that today's webinar was supposed to be. So today's webinar actually ended up being at 3 p.m. GMT. So it'll be at 2 p.m. GMT. And the same time for our webinar on the 30th, which is going to be given by Yunez on ecosystem-based solutions and adaptation methods. So again, that is, I should show here the GMT. Let's see. Maybe? Fingers crossed. But yeah, it'll be at 2 p.m. GMT. Oh, that's my calendar. We're going to leave there. But if you are ever looking for the webinar recordings, they're all going to be here on our Care About Climate resources page. And the 2017 archive will have all of them. All right? And this is hosted by Google Drive. So it's in a Google Drive account. So if you're having trouble with Google, let me know and we can find a new way to send them to you. All right? But I think I just, let's see. Oh, this was the one I was talking about, changing social behaviors. This is a great webinar to take a look at. It's changing social behaviors, a case study from the Gambia. All right. So thank you so much, everyone, for being on the call. Were there any further questions or comments that people wanted to add? Either about the topic of today's call or otherwise about the program, anything? All right, thank you. Don't forget the 22nd is Earth Day, which I'm so excited for. So we're only 12 days away from my favorite holiday. Please, if you could, plan events, let us know about what you're doing, and share the climate sign as often as possible, especially on Earth Day. So we're really hoping to get that, to spread that to more and more people and get more people involved in knowing about our cause. So it's a great way to connect people with the climate sign. All right. Thank you so much for joining the call today, and I'll see you on the 20th. Bye.